overall my experience with Stray. I found it to be a pretty fun game. However, there were a lot of points where the game leaned into being a cat simulator, where it almost started to feel like I was cheating by sitting there playing it while I had the real thing staring at me from his perch across the room. This led me to ask the question that I will be trying to answer in this video. Should you buy Stray, or should you adopt a real cat? I've broken it down into a few categories, and we'll be seeing which comes out with a higher score. Stray is a pretty slick-looking game. A lot of the cat animations are really good, but are they as good as a real cat? I think not. Well, the cat in Stray will do things like kneading and scratching. It feels a little bit declawed compared to the viscerality of seeing a cat scratch up your furniture or feeling it kneading your clothes. I'm gonna have to give this one to real cats. Controls in Stray feel decent, but it was pretty annoying to try to play with a Switch controller. I routinely found myself meowing a couple times before jumping up on things. This is pretty realistic in terms of how actual cats act though, to be fair. When I try to use the Switch Pro controller with my cat, he just headbutts it. This is pretty adorable, but it doesn't really count as controller support in any conventional sense. So I'm gonna have to give this one to Stray. Stray is a pretty linear game. There are a set number of moves you can realistically make as far as jumping from platform to platform and traversing the world. Real cats seem to manage to find ways to end up in places you never would have thought that they could. Stray does allow you to run, but the run speed and animation doesn't really hold a candle to seeing a real cat when it gets the zoomies. I have to give this one to real cats, since I enjoy a good surprise and the intensity of their zooming really helps them stand out. Real cats can play with a variety of toys and will often find ways to entertain themselves with those toys. Typically though, you have to prompt a cat to play with the toy at least a little bit. Much like a real cat, the cat that you control in Stray enjoys knocking things off of high places. This is cute in Stray, whereas it's kind of a pain in the ass in real life, especially when your cat likes knocking your toaster off of your refrigerator. The cat in Stray is also telepathically able to control a drone that can communicate for it, use various tools, and hack things for it. So this one ultimately seems like a pretty easy win for Stray. Stray does have a dedicated meow button, and the cat will occasionally yowl when it's hurt. This is about all you're getting. I didn't really notice much purring, and I think that purring is one of the best cat sounds. And I can sympathize with the devs because I know it's a little bit difficult to record, but it feels lacking from the game nonetheless. Real cats, on the other hand, are a joy to communicate with. Verbally, my cat is essentially a parrot. I can have full conversations with him, and it has reduced my need for regular human interaction by about 80%. As previously mentioned, real cats get a lot of points for their purrs, especially if they're loud purrs, like my last cat was. So this one, I'm giving to real cats. Stray tells the story of a group of robots who are trying to reach the surface of an underground cyberpunk world they live in. The cat serves as a loyal, helpful companion to them. To keep it vague, Stray doesn't have a lot of twisted turns in the story, and is mostly just about experiencing the world and the sense of adventure. I do wish that the ending dragged on just a little bit longer for reasons I won't spoil. This can often be said of real cats too. The other thing I wish Stray had is little choices for the player to make that wouldn't necessarily be super consequential, but would be fun anyways. Like, there's this part where you're looking for a robot who's being hunted by the authorities. And one of the game's mechanics is that you can show NPCs items that you have. And it felt like giving one of the cop bots the paper that you have with her address on it really felt like a missed opportunity, just for like an instant game over or something. Just would have been cool to have. Real cats are a little bit more like characters in a role-playing game. They have a variety of starting locations and origin stories. Some are strays, some are shelter babies, and others are adopted straight from another owner's litter. Once adopted, they typically follow a linear progression, but sometimes provide you with random events or side quests. Like sometimes they may bring you a dead animal that you then have to remove from your house. Sometimes they may give themselves health complications from eating your batteries. It's not always pretty, but as somebody who values a lack of predictability, I'm going to give this one to real cats. Real cats make amazing companions. If you get the right one, they're incredibly sweet and very cuddly. Maybe not always the best times, but they're awesome pets nonetheless. However, if you get the wrong cat, and I've never personally experienced this, I've heard they can be a bit aloof and not always the kind of sweet teddy bear type creature that I seem to wind up with whenever I adopt a cat. The cat in Stray, on the other hand, is about average cuddliness, just judging based on the prompts that you're given to nuzzle or cuddle with various NPCs. The narrative of Stray gives this cat the upper hand, though, because you're going on a sort of journey with these robots that you probably shouldn't be taking your cat on in real life. There's a heightened opportunity for connection there, and at some point in the game, this can really tug at your heartstring, especially since you know that the cat isn't going to eat a dead robot, even if it has no trouble occasionally mutilating their corpses. This will probably be the most controversial decision on this list, and you can say it's cheating via fiction, which it probably is, but I am going to give this one to Stray. As a mostly linear, story-driven game, Stray's replayability is naturally pretty limited. There were a few things I missed out on in the form of various tasks I abandoned, those goddamn yellow flowers, and memories that I missed, which are the game's story collectibles, sort of like audio logs or something of that sort. Fortunately, the game does have a chapter select, so it's never too prohibitive to go back for those things if you want that sweet 100%. Real cats, on the other hand, are very replayable, unless you have allergies. Well, you might want some time to process everything after you finish a real cat. I found myself picking up a new one after a couple months, and the experience of replaying cat ownership has been thrilling, and it feels fresh so far, especially due to some of the randomly generated traits that some cats have. I mean, the cats, they are randomly generated. But anyways, I'm giving this one to real cats. Stray is a $30 game that lasts about 5 to 6 hours. I personally wasted an extra hour wandering around aimlessly looking for stuff, so it took me around 7 hours. It's a cohesive and polished experience that manages to feel like a proper journey. So I actually wasn't really expecting to be able to recommend it for the price, but I can pretty confidently say that I can now after having played it. Well, some YouTubers have compared it to games like Inside and Journey. It actually reminded me considerably more of a game that I'd probably recommend called Sludge Life, where you're just kind of jumping around, going places, meeting people, talking to them, collecting stuff, and doing like little late puzzles here and there. Sort of feels more Stray-esque than any of those purely adventure-y games. Of the two cats I've owned, I received one for free because she was stolen from her previous owner and pawned off on me. And I paid $100 to adopt the other one. Well, a young enough a cat will provide you at least a decade of gameplay. There is a subscription fee of feeding it and cleaning its waste and taking it to the vet. According to credit.com, the first thing Google showed me, the average lifetime cost of a cat ranges from $5,000 to $23,000. And according to some other website, they're like $53 a month. Personally, I find every penny worth it, and it's a much richer experience than playing a video game. However, since the cost is somewhat prohibitive and I wouldn't want to encourage anyone who can't afford a cat to get one. I'm just going to give both stray and real cats half a point for this one, which is going to bring our final score to 5.5 for cats and 3.5 for stray. All things considered, Stray is just a video game. And if there's one thing I've learned from some of my recent discreetly shipped online purchases, it's that we're at least a couple decades out from being able to truly replicate the feeling of having a real pussy in front of you. As someone who can be pretty nitpicky and cynical about games, I was pleasantly surprised by Stray, and I'd recommend at least getting it on sale, even if you're reluctant to buy a relatively short game for 30 big ones. Like I said, I don't ever expect it to replace owning a real cat though, which is something that you should absolutely do if you can afford it and aren't allergic, regardless of what your landlord and or rental company says. Anyways, thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe and throw this video a good like if you enjoyed it. It helps me out a lot as I'm currently trying to get this channel off the ground after a previous scandal involving an 11-year-old me claiming that I knew how to unlock Waluigi in Super Mario 64 DS. I also stream on Twitch and make music, so be sure to follow me on the other platforms I link in the description. I guess this is goodbye, and I just want you to know I love you all so much. Please be good to your cats. I'm begging you.
Baby, I'm